Larry V. Santana, filmmaker, absolute legend, mate. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
My pleasure, mate. Thank you for having me.
I'm going to ask lots of questions today. All right, I'm going to lots of questions. We're going to go. I have no idea where we're going to go. I've done a lot of research on you. I know we can, and I know you personally as well. Filmmaker extraordinaire. All the other stuff we're going to talk about. But the most important question I'm going to ask you is the first one, and I hope you answer very honestly. Had a bit of bad news a couple of weeks ago. How are you, mate?
I'm doing all right. You know, I'm hanging in. I think, you know, the bad news you're referring to is we worked on this film project together. I was paid to write a feature film for Universal, and trying to pitch myself as a director on the project, not just writing it and getting it made that way, but trying to, you know, with my full vision of the story from top to bottom. And, you know, I had some conversations with the studio, and we were, I thought, you know, close to getting there, and then ultimately it didn't work out. So trying to, you know, pivot, transition to finding a way to get it made independently. And, you know, that's been a challenge, but I'm up for it, and I believe in the project, and I believe in the cast, including yourself, and so we'll find a way.
We'll find a way, mate. We will find a way. And that's a very good answer that you said. That sounds like I'm not saying this is, but that sounds like a very rehearsed answer. But truly, deeply, honestly, I mean, you've worked, and I know, I was one of the actors that you cast for the film, and it was amazing. And I mean, the story was so great. Like, I wanted to do it so bad, and I was a toy in there. I was a Barbie in the Barbie house. You built the house. So honestly, mate, when you get that knockback, and this is what podcast is all about, like getting off from setbacks, like, fuck, like, what's it like? Because you put your heart and soul into it. You live and breathe, you dream it, you dream character, you write the character, you can see it so clearly in your head, and somebody else goes, nope, not because of you're not good enough or because you whatever. It's a no from somebody else. You can't see your vision. How do you deal with that setback?
Well, I mean, you know, I'll be very honest. It's heartbreaking every time. I mean, like the business is very much, I mean, rejection is kind of just part of the deal. And so in order to, anyone that I talk to that is interested in getting into the industry, you know, I always tell them, like, you have to love this above all other things, because if there's anything else that you would even be remotely interested in doing, go do that, because it's going to be so much easier for you. Like, you have to love it, because, like, you got to power through so much no and so much people thinking that you're crazy and thinking that, you know, because the thing is, I discovered, you know, and after years in the business, it's like everyone says, we want the new fresh thing, right? And then you give it to them and they don't know what to do with it, because they want to like fall back on what's already worked. They want to say, hey, well, what's familiar? Because the industry is very risk averse now, I think more than ever, you know, for a million reasons we can get into. But I mean, I think for me personally, like, putting everything into this project, and like, just like, you know, hard and soul, many late nights. I mean, like, long hours, just, you know, very little sleep for a long, long time. But I'm doing it because I'm so passionate. I love it so much. And so when you do that, you know, like, there's a real vulnerability there. It's like, all right, I'm saying this is me, like, creatively naked, like, here it is. And then when they give it back to you and they say no, it stings every time. It never feels good. It's never, you know, people are like, oh, well, you become numb to it. I don't, you know, it's not good, but, you know, ultimately you have to say, well, they didn't get it, but, like, I still, as long as I see the vision and I believe in it, like, all you can do is move forward. And so that's what I'm doing, because there's no other way.
Yeah. And that is obviously, you know, the vision you're talking about, specifically a movie that you want to film and direct and create. But that's indicative of life, isn't it? Like, as long as you see what you want to get, or you see where you want to get to, if you believe in it enough and you're passionate enough, go after it, no matter how many times you stumble along the way, how many no's you get. If you want it so bad, just go and get it. And it brings me on to this next thing, okay? So I'm going to ask a couple of questions here, and it's going to be a little question pie. I don't know what I'm talking about. Goodness me, only 5 minutes in, I'm talking about nonsense already. So, Craig, what I love about you, Larry, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, and I really do mean this. I'm not one of these people that say, oh, I mean it in a nice way. I don't. I mean this in the nicest possible way. You're a dreamer. And that's what I love about you. You're a dreamer. And I love that, because if you think about it, we were all dreamers once. I mean, I still am a dreamer very much, but we were all kids once. We dreamt. We had the dream. We didn't know anything. We dreamt stuff. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to go here. I want to go there. And because you're a kid, like no one says you can't do it, and you want it, and you believe in it. Then you get older, you get your dreams stamped out, and you get ironed out, and you become normal and boring. And then we don't go after our dreams anymore. But what I love about you is you have a dream, you go after it. And yeah, there's been times in your life we're going to talk about where you kind of stagnated, maybe. You know, life began to like iron the dreams out of you. But eventually you went, no, I'm going after this. And I love that about you, mate. And that's something I really respect. And I think there's a dreamer in all of us in here, in us. And it's whether we have the bottle, the desire to dig down deep enough and let our inner boy and girl dreamers out into the world. And man, that's I wanted to say that about you. I respect that about you, and I want to talk about your dreams and your visions. 2 questions, mate. Larry V. Santana. So it's fascinating. Someone's got like an initial with just the first letter of the V. So what is V? And also, for those that don't know who you are, we've kind of explained it already. But actually, who are you and why are we talking today?
Okay, so I'll start with the first. Well, first, thank you for saying what you said about me being a dreamer. I just want to say on that point, I think that dreamers are the ones that I think, change the world, change culture. They move the needle forward. And so without the dreamers, we would stagnate as a species. I think it's the people that they call you crazy at first, but then once you prove it and say, hey, I did this thing, then all of a sudden, oh, like, he's a genius. So we always knew he was going to be great. But like, that is so important. I think that adulthood, especially, because like, when you're kind of taught, I think, conformity. It's like, as you get older, it's like, they kind of beat that out of you. Say, oh no, but like, do the safe thing, do what's expected of you by other people. And I think you can get kind of lost. You can lose yourself in that trap of trying to fulfill other people's expectations of what your life should be. And I think that
you're not living for them. You're not living for them.
No,
you're paying taxes.
No.
You're doing this. You're not living for them. You got to live for yourself.
Yeah.
And so on that dreaming, before you go on, that's a great point you made. The dreaming thing. Imagine this: 400 years ago, 200 years ago, 300, not that long ago, right? A couple great grandparents, great grandparents, not that long ago. Somebody must have no idea. There's going to be a plane one day. What's a plane? Oh, it's going to be a big, massive, junk hunk of metal. It's going to fly like thousands of feet up in the air. What an idiot. What an idiotic thing to think of. But somebody dreamt that and did it. Like, without dreamers, mate, we're still cavemen and women, like, not even talking to each other, with clubs getting eaten by saber-toothed tigers. Dreamers make the world go on, make the world spin. And we all got dreamers inside us. And our dreams haven't got to change the world, but our dreams can change our worlds. And again, getting back to that dream, and yeah, mate, sorry to interrupt. I think you're dead right on that one.
So to answer your question about my name, so the V stands for Victor. So I have an interesting story about like my name generally. So I'm very light skinned, but like I'm Puerto Rican. My family's from Puerto Rico originally, and so as a kid, like I always had the name Larry. Santana is a very like Latin name, right? Larry is not so much. So I remember being a kid, like growing up in New York, like nothing but like Hispanic. It was all mostly like Black and Hispanic kids. And so having the name, like Larry Santana was like, it didn't kind of fit. And I always wondered, well, what's up with that? Where's this Larry come from? Because I've never met a Puerto Rican named Larry ever, right? Besides my dad. My dad's Larry Sr., right? So I asked my dad about it. I'm like, Dad, like, how are we both Larrys as a kid? And so going back to when my dad was born, so my grandmother was in the hospital, like about to give birth to my dad, right? And she was gonna name him Victor after my grandfather. And in Spanish, like Victor Santana, it's a very like Latin name, right? And so for some reason, and I'll never know the answer, my grandmother passed on, so rest in peace, but I'll never know the answer. But for whatever reason, my grandfather was not at the hospital at my dad's birth. And my grandmother was furious. I mean, she was pissed, right? So she goes, I'm not going to name him Victor. And so the nurse who was delivering my dad says, well, what do you want to name him? She goes, how about you name the kid? And the nurse was engaged. Her fiance was a guy named Larry. She's going to marry this guy named Larry. She's like, I love Larry. Like, Larry's a beautiful name. She goes, okay, that's it. He's Larry Santana. And so then when I was born, I'm Larry the second, and the V is the Victor from my grandfather. So he's Larry and I'm Larry V.
Your nan named her son Larry out of spite.
Out of spite.
I love that.
Exactly.
Man. Wow, man, I love that. Growing up in New York, I know. But well, I'm gonna start with this. Right, I've done some research on you, mate, and I found an amazing article. I'm going to share at the end. People to learn more about you. Although we'll cover most points in this. The reason I talk with your dreamer. In the first paragraph of this article, I thought this can be a good podcast. You said, "Risk is what makes the juice worth the squeeze. Without it, you can never achieve anything truly extraordinary." Talk about that, mate.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
I think the risk is what may. I mean, if it's easy, then anyone would do it, right? If it's too, like, if the bar is so low, there's nothing special about it. Nothing, that really, like, for me, I'm always trying to evolve, not just as an artist, as a creative person, but as a human being too. So it's like I've always like sought out challenges. I think like and throughout my life, and this has been true since as far back as I can remember. But whenever I was in a situation, say a job or any sort of situation that I was like, I'm bored here. Why am I so bored? Why am I unhappy? It was because there was like a ceiling on, like, I don't know, like I wanted to reach for more and there wasn't any more there to reach for. And so I was like, well, what else is there? I don't want to become stagnant. And so I think that the reason why people celebrate, great athletes or filmmakers or, musicians or whatever is because we all have the same human limitations. And these people say, I'm going to reach beyond those limitations and create something that is truly remarkable. And everyone cheers them on and loves it because we all deep down, I think, want to strive for more. And some of us are too afraid to do it. But so when we see people that are willing to take that chance and take that risk, it's so inspirational. It becomes like, oh my God, like as someone you look to as like inspiration for whatever hard time you might be going through in your life.